My name is Sumit Muju, and I do healthcare IT consulting, and I'm the founder and owner at Anyasoft, which is a boutique healthcare IT consulting firm. So I've been working in life science and health record IT data management systems for many years now. Um, so actually, the title of the talk when I initially gave was telehealth business model. When I was writing it, I realized it's a little bit more generic because it's different for different places. So I named it Telehealth Business Model Framework for Developing Countries. And actually, after 2 days here, I was almost thinking I should say my quest to find a telehealth business model. But anyways, I'll share what I have learned in the process to find a good, viable, self-sustaining business model for telemedicine in developing countries. And I think it's been recognized that that is kind of a bottleneck right now, as was mentioned by Mr. Pilot this morning in his talk, and some of the other talks where we know that the technology is more or less there. Maybe there's some little bit more expensive or less expensive equipment, but to have it running in a self-sustaining manner without continuous government input or subsidy or grants for that matter, you need to come up with some business model. And what I mean by self-sustaining, it doesn't mean that you'll get a 10% or 20% ROI in next 5 years. What I'm suggesting is you can operate it where your money you're generating covers the cost. So your black is more than red, so you're in black, not in red. And the revenues mostly would be coming from the income you'll be generating either would be from revenues you generate from the services or the subsidies you receive. And cost typically would be operational cost, equipment cost, which could be amortized over time, and the physical rent and physical infrastructure, and or if you own it, then either rent it, or if you own it, then you kind of amortize it over time. And as far as equipment is concerned, actually after coming here, I realized there are further models available because companies are willing to give you equipment for minimal upfront cost and share the revenue, or they are even willing to give it to you for a minimal upfront cost with the franchising kind of model where they charge you maybe a monthly fee for that equipment over a period of time, and at the end of it you can own it. So what are the stakeholders for telemedicine? I guess first of all, it's patient, who's the end beneficiary. And typically the people we are targeting in the developing countries with this would have limited financial pockets, so they won't be able to pay a whole lot of money. They're often illiterate and ignorant, so they don't know maybe their rights, and they can't read or write to a great degree. There are also providers, which typically in the scenario we are looking at would be specialty hospitals, which are in larger towns and cities. And it'll be a medical doctor or a registered nurse who will be providing a service on the other end. There's also a delivery channel, and you could have a public-private center in the sense that a private company or a franchisee or a private entity would utilize public infrastructure to run their service. And and I can kind of quote examples. For example, if you have a primary healthcare center somewhere and a private entity can set up like a kiosk or a small desk where they offer this service, or it could be any other, for example, right now, or any other similar government facility. There's also a pharmacy component to it because you need to not just provide advice, but you need to be able to have some intervention, which would be typically a drug. And it could be a manned location, or it could be a mobile van which can go around. We're also looking, and the government, of course, is a stakeholder in all of this because by default, all governments have a public health mandate. So they are, whether they like it or not, involved and responsible for public health overall. And they can provide like medical aid for the poor, as is people who are really at the bottom. It can also be, they're also responsible for disease and epidemic surveillance. If there is some disease which comes up, then they have to kind of respond to it. And so So in my business model, actually, typically you would consider a financial model a separate part of a business model, or maybe sometimes even separate from how you do the business. But in this case, given the level of awareness we have, I think we know various possible business models, but the stumbling block is this financial part of it. And that's why I am giving more prominence to financial models, and we look at that, where how do you generate a revenue, which could be, patient co-payment where they can. There could be like insurances, for example, in India, in most of the states, they are starting this BPL insurance, which is partly kind of subsidized by the central government, and state has to implement the scheme where people who are really at the bottom of the pyramid get some basic, insurance. There's also some experimenting with microfinance-based insurance, and where a group of people kind of pool together, give small little monthly payments, and it guarantees generates, you can have medical insurance for a group of people, and those risks are spread across the group rather than just few individuals. You can generate money through referrals. So we know that normally right now for a telemedicine-based consultation, there is no, the only way you can generate money is if the patient pays you some money for, which in many cases they can't, or in cases they can, it's not sufficient. But what you can do is, and I believe is kind of to some extent being done, is you can refer patients. So this can serve as a triage facility where patients who need further treatment are referred to another hospital, who can in turn pay a referral fee, for example, for such a setup. Government has to carry out either themselves or with the World Health Organization. They carry out public health surveys, population studies from time to time. And people go around villages collecting data and things of that nature. If you have such a setup, you can almost collect data real time. You don't have to go around because you already have that information about what's going on in the local population health-wise. You can try to recruit people for pharmaceutical studies and clinical trials, in which case the clinical trials companies can help pay for some of the cost of running the infrastructure. The companies who do the trials, there are, of course, legal and ethical issues around here, but so you have to kind of do it really properly. And the typically expenses would be startup costs. When you start up your a facility, you'll have to buy telemedicine equipment. You have infrastructure. If you're building something like a mobile van, or you have a building you're buying or renting, you have to train the operator. So, but now, depending on who's providing the equipment, actually a lot of it can be done in a different way, because you can, as I mentioned, companies will now let you rent the equipment in the sense with a minimal upfront cost, and they will share, have a share in the monthly revenue, or they can just ask over time. They spread out the cost, and you pay them monthly fee for a year, and then own the equipment at the end of the year. There are also operational costs, which includes internet connectivity, or bandwidth which is required. There is a facility rent, or if you own it, then you kind of tend to amortize it over time, or you pay a monthly rent, and you have to pay somebody to run the facility at the end of the day. Or if you are a franchisee owner, then it has to be profitable enough that you're making money to pay yourself and be viable that way. And of course, there's the equipment maintenance and the supplies which are needed, which cost money. And so now the other thing I will look at is the delivery channels. How do you deliver this kind of a telemedicine service? And as I mentioned earlier, you can use public health center, which are there, at least on paper. They are not very well functional in most of the countries. They are not well manned. But the physical infrastructure is there, so that can be used. We can set up mobile vans with telemedicine equipment, and it has been done on a trial basis many places. I think SGPI, Lucknow, also did that a while ago. And I know there are things happening in Kenya with USAID, who are setting up like big trucks with X-ray, portable X-ray machines and things like that. You can have a privately owned service center, which again kind of runs on either a franchise model or a microfinance or micro franchise model, as some people call, where franchisee does a microfinance to buy the equipment and run a center, or a third-party facility with the kiosk and an attendant can replace. For example, if you go to a small town chemist shop, then you can put a kiosk and train somebody to operate that and operate basic medical equipment.
Can you wrap up?
Oh, wrap up. Okay. So the key challenges, I guess, there are, and we probably know, telecommunication connectivity. There has to be a power, regular power, or if not, then you have to have some solar backup. You have to have good physical infrastructure. And ignorance in the population is probably, I think, the biggest challenge from what I understand and talking to people and trying to come up with good models of people. Even if it's there, if you build it, it's not necessarily that people will come, because people who have not seen a modern medical facility, and they are mostly relying on quacks or or alternative medicine. People who are so that to getting to them would be a biggest issue. The language barrier, because the provider and the patient has to speak same language. You have to have a reliable supply chain. And what last I would say is, what the biggest competition here is not really finances and things like that. At the end of the day, when you get everything there, probably one of the biggest competition would be ignorance. And a local medicine man, as I show here, this is like a Zulu medicine man from Africa who gives medical treatment to local people because there is nothing else there. So that is what really, you have to kind of really beat that to be successful in this scenario. And that's my contact if you have questions. Thank you. Answer that.
Just one question from the floor, if at all any.
No, okay.
I think I'll share just one thought. The language barrier is a very important barrier. I'll just experience of Pan-African e-network. There are in Africa, there are many countries. We are addressing almost 47 countries. So there is a French language in some of the countries. So it's a big barrier. I think you require the interpretation. That's why I think it has been emphasized that the content has to be developed in the local language, whether it is Indian perspective or a global perspective. Thank you.
All right.